Right, what is up, everyone? I've been talking a lot lately about the Xenas gun or the X gun, and finally today I get to show you guys, a quick summary, a quick preview. Kind of get to run down some of the features. Well, first thing first, what is the Xenas gun, or short, the X gun? What is it? It's basically a video game controller, a mouse, and a keyboard that's shaped as a gun, so you can actually shoot while you're playing your video games. I came up with this idea because some of the old light guns that I had from my old arcades were just kind of, they weren't cutting it. So I was like, yeah, I think I could do something better on my own, and that's where this idea came up. And at first, I had some few drawings, here a few concept art that I did, and I kept getting better and better, and I finally ended up with this design. This is the final design, and as you can see, it still got the signature X LED on it. It's pretty cool, huh? All right, well, so the X gun is completely wireless. This is a rough, really rough, ghetto looking mock-up that I came up with using an old, Nerf gun. But I think this is good enough to at least sample to you guys so you guys can see what the X gun is all about. It's completely wireless. The battery lasts, I'll say, about a day on a constant use, up to 24 hours on a continuous use. But on average, it'll last about a week and a half, 2 weeks before you have to charge it. Now, let's do a quick look around of the X gun. Now, let's begin with the trigger. The trigger is pressure sensitive, meaning, the more you squeeze it, the more action you get. So think about like when you're playing a video game where you can slightly hold the trigger and you rev up your gun, and then you squeeze it all the way, you begin to shoot the gun. There's a typical A and B buttons on it. And the front is the IR camera, because you can actually use it as a light gun. Right, slide underneath it is a little forearm or forehand that you can pull. You could probably use that to like reload a gun. See that? Next to the trigger is this button here. Now, mind you that every single button on the X gun is configurable. You can set it to whatever you want to set it to. Right here in the back is an analog joystick that's also clickable. Right in the bottom is a button here that could serve well for a reload. There's a recoil. It's got the vibration motion in as well, and some cool LEDs in it. Now, the X gun is also motion sensitive, meaning I can either use the IR sensor to move, or I could use like my hand trigger to move. If I want, I can also shake the X gun to shake off all those zombies, and if I run out of bullet, I can always thrust the X gun forward to get them off me. Now, there's an application called X Utility. The X Utility is this application that's on Windows, it's on iOS, it's on Android, Linux, and Mac versions are coming soon. And the X Utility allows you to configure your X gun. You can configure it, calibrate it, do all kinds of stuff. Here's the X Utility. I'm gonna launch the X Utility to so we could do a quick rundown on how the X gun works. Let's click on scan right here. Turn it on. At least there it is. Now I just want to connect. Now in this first screen, it's called the X gun function. This is where you select how you would like your X gun to function, or how you want your X gun to behave when you connect it to your PC or your smartphone. These are some presets that we have. So a motion gun is basically, it works like a mouse. However, it uses your hand motion to position the mouse cursor. Light gun is the same thing. It works as a mouse. However, it uses the IR camera. And then if you place some IR sensor bars around your monitor, or if you would like for more accuracy, you could place IR LEDs at the edges of your monitor, and you could use a light gun feature to get like a more pinpoint, accurate precision aiming. You can also do IR gamepad. Now, the cool thing about IR gamepad is it uses the IR camera to position your game joystick. So think of when you're playing classic games on the N64 or PlayStation 2. You can, as opposed to you using, your right thumb to move the joystick, you can actually use the X gun, aim it left and right to move the gamepad. As you guys can see here, you see as I aim up and down, you see that joystick moving. That's pretty cool. So these are all the settings that you can set with the X gun, and everything else is just like a combination of whatever you want to do. One of the cool ones is when you go to user define. So if I go to user define, just to kind of give you guys a quick walkthrough, it says here select your aiming method. I can choose none, so when I move the gun around, nothing happens. Or you could put motion gun, which means it uses the motion sensor of the X gun to move the mouse pointer. If I set it to light gun, that means I got to put some IR sensors around my monitor so the IR camera can kind of figure out, you know, where I'm aiming. Joystick left right, you like to pick what feature would happen when I hit the joystick left right. You could do mouse horizontal scroll, you could do keyboard left and right. The same thing, joystick Y, joystick click. What happens when I click down on the joystick? And we've got button A, button B. Now this is the grip button. What happens when I click that? Now trigger soft press basically means what should happen when I slightly squeeze the trigger, right? And then trigger fully engaged means what happens when I fully press the trigger. As you can see here, it's obviously set to mouse left click. Now there's also trigger off screen, and this is only available when I'm using light gun, the IR sensor. If I switch here to motion gun, you can see off screen goes away because there's no such thing as off screen when you use the motion sensor. Now if I go back to light gun, when you go off screen, you can just, you know, pick what happens. Typically in most games when you're doing off screen, it's usually used for reloading. There's a reload button on the bottom of the X gun. It's right one right here. What happens when I press it? Now the forend, you can pick what happens while you slide it. You can also put what will happen when you fully pull the forend. You can also here select what happens when you shake the X gun. So if I shake it, you can also say what happens when I thrust the X gun forward. You know, you can make it do a whole bunch of things. Now, once you've obviously configured it exactly how you want it, you just go ahead and click on apply settings. But I'm not going to do that now. Now, with the X utility, if you open up the details and settings tab, it basically just gives you a quick rundown of everything that's in your X gun. This is where you can test it out to see if it's actually behaving properly. Now, the trigger, yeah, trigger is a little off, but if you guys look at the trigger right here, the trigger display. So as I squeeze it, you can see that moving up. Here's the forend value. As I move the forend, you can see that moving. Now when I shake the X gun, you can see the shake sensor going off. When I thrust it forward, you see the thrust sensor go off. As you press these buttons, you can see them show up on the screen. So if I press this, you can see it show up just to make sure that it's working. If I press that, you can see that show up just to make sure it's working. Like I said, you know, if you pull the trigger, you see the trigger. Well, I mean, it's kind of a mess in there, so it's not really working exactly how it should work. If I push the reload button, you see that light up just to make sure it's working. If I press the grip button right here, you see that light up. If I move the analog joystick, you see that move. Just make sure things are behaving the way they're supposed to behave. If I click on it, click show up. Now, if for any reason your analog is not really centered or it's not where you think it should be, you could just calibrate it. When you click on this calibrate right here, it brings up the joystick calibration pop-up, and it just follow the really simple on-screen instructions. You know, you kind of like just pull the analog stick all the way to the right, click set, pull it all the way to the top, you click set, let it rest in the middle, you click set, and that's it. Very simple. Now it puts it right in the middle. You can also test out your haptics. The X gun's got some haptics functionality in it as well. So when you hit that, you can feel it a little bit. You can test the vibration. Can you guys hear that? I don't know if you guys can hear it. Put next to the mic. Well, you probably can't really hear it, but you can feel it vibrate. Or you can test out the recoil. See that? Now you can test out your LED. Make sure they're working. Just toggle this color cycle, and you can see the colors of your LED strip. You can see the LED strip changing colors to match, just so you can make sure that your reds are red, your greens are green, your purples are purples, and all that cool stuff. Now, over on this side, this is where you change the settings of your X gun. Now remember, the X gun is completely wireless. So everything is built on top of wireless technology or wireless idea, which means it runs on battery, which means your battery can run out. So you might want to save your battery. Now, if the gun is left idle, you're not using it, your gun is just, sitting there, you're not using it, you don't want to burn up all your battery. So this settings right here allows you to set how long you want your gun to sit before going to sleep. So here, 4 minutes. If I don't use it, if I don't do anything for 4 minutes, go ahead and go to sleep and save the battery. You can set it all the way to an hour. That means if I set it for an hour and I don't use it, it's gonna go to sleep. Or you could just drag it all the way to the left where it never goes to sleep, and you can just burn out your battery. There's an X LED, kind of like the one that is in the drawings, that signature X that lights up. You can actually turn it off. However, you can adjust how bright you want it to be. And I don't know if you guys can really see it. When I drag it down, it dims a little bit. I'm not sure if the camera is really capturing that, but drag it all the way up here, it gets lighter. All right, trigger sensitivity. This trigger is pressure sensitive, right? But you can set how sensitive you want it to be. If you make it really stiff, that means you got to really look at that. I'm squeezing now. I can't even get up to 50%. Hold on. Well, I mean, the real one won't be that stiff, but notice how I'm having a hard time getting even past 50%. It's because there's a lot of stuff in there. Or you can just kind of adjust it all the way down to softest. Look at this. So now this one's super soft. The trigger is super soft. All right, let me just kind of set that here. Now, shake sensitivity. I can make the shake sensor very soft, which means any little shake I do, the shake sensor goes off. Or I could just turn that all the way up to stiffest, which means I gotta go really crazy for it to go off. And the same thing with the thrust. So you can set it to the softest, which means if I move forward, I get that. Stiffest, that means I like really thrust it for like Mike Tyson type punch to get it to move. All right, now let's go down the list here. Now the colored LED here, that colored LED, you can actually make it do something. It's not just there for fancy, right? So this setting allows you to set what you want it to do. You could do none, so you don't use it. It doesn't do anything. It just sits there. You can make it indicate your battery. So it changes color based on how much charge your battery has. Now it's green, obviously, because you've got some battery. You click on that. Battery is 78%, about 11 volts, 10 volts, 11 volts. So that's why it's green. Once the battery begins to die, you see it turn, yellow, red. You can set it to software. The software version basically means whatever game you're playing controls the LED. So if you're like in some kind of lava stage, it turns red. If you're in the jungle, it turns green, or it can actually indicate your character's health. However the game wants to do it, the game that you're playing takes total control of the LED. Now, not all games do that, but in the future, some games are going to start doing that. Or you can set the LED to basically sync with the recoil, which means every time the recoil snaps, it lights up. You see it there. This allows you to change the color. Set to whatever you want. Green. Set it to red. you like that, huh? All right. Or if you want, you can just make it a player color. Basically, a player color is just one single solid color that just lights up. In case if you have multiple guns, you want to know which one's which, so you might want to assign different guns to different colors using haptics and vibration feedback. So there is a vibration function in this gun, and when it's on, it works. The vibration and the haptics are mainly used for notifications. So if you connect, if you disconnect, I know if your battery's dying, or maybe some video games can actually access that vibration and haptic, or you can just completely turn it off. Now for the recoil, right? The recoil feedback, you can actually just completely turn it off. So it's completely off, doesn't work. You can set it to single, which means each time I pull the trigger, that's it. It doesn't go. I gotta let go and do it again. You can set it to software. This allows the game that you're playing to actually control the recoil. So if you run out of bullet, the game knows that you have no more bullets, so it doesn't pull it. You can set it to automatic, which basically means if you hold down the trigger, it just fires. And you can also adjust the speed. You set it to fastest. Now the motion sensor page basically just lets you know if your gun's still working. As you can see here, as I move the gun up and down, it's detecting where I'm moving it. If I rotate it, you see the little rotation thing move. All right, now if I click on this view 3D model, you see that 3D model kind of like mimics what I'm doing. It's not perfect, it's not accurate, but it's just kind of like lets you know what position it thinks your gun it's in. You see all that. And if you really want to get the data of how it behaves, there's this graph here that kind of shows you, what's going on. As I move left and right, you can see the aiming sensor. The red goes up and down. If I go up, down, you can see the green move. You see how the shake sensor works. Make sure everything is working. The thrust. You can see the graph go up and down as I thrust. Just in case, if your gun is behaving funny, you might want to come in this menu and make sure things are functioning properly. Now the IR sensor screen, this is where you basically set up how the IR behaves. Alright, so this menu is used for basically diagnosing the IR camera. So as you can see here, I'm aiming on that IR sensor, and it kind of like lets you know where things are. The camera is capable of seeing up to 4 IR positions. So it uses a whole bunch of algorithms to let you know that things are behaving the way they're supposed to behave. Let's see here. Go to change sensor type. Based on whatever IR arrangement you want to use, this menu allows you to pick the IR, configuration or configuration type. If you want, you can use an IR bar. So you click on this allows you to use IR bar. If you put it in the bottom, you pick that. If you use one of those IR LED boxes, you can pick this if you want. You can use 1, 2, 3. The more you use, the more accurate it is. Again, if you just have like a bunch of kids who are playing, just having fun, the sensor bar works perfectly fine. It's not very accurate, but it's it gets the job done. If you want something more accurate, obviously you want to go with these. If you want something that's even really super pinpoint accurate, you want to go with either 3 boxes or 4 boxes, because it knows how big your screen is. It knows the edges of your screen, so everything aims perfect. All right, so well guys, that's it. This gun is obviously still at work. I'm still working on it. It's looking good, and I just decided to do the showcase, let you guys know how far we've gone, and it's almost done. I will see you guys soon.